everybody. It's Ron and Hope Unfiltered, real, raw, and relevant. And, of course, Ron's drinking his water. It's typical. It's what he does.
Maybe.
He's got him a snot rag here today.
A hot drink.
And a hot drink. He's been sick.
I never get sick. I never get sick.
So this is to cough in, and then halfway through, woo, shoo, do, he's going to get the
You've never
Holy
used a rag.
Ghost.
You don't know how to use a shout rag, baby.
Yeah, I don't know how.
No.
Do you know how? Can you show me how to use a shout rag?
Look at this past Sunday.
No, I want you to show me right now.
The atmosphere has not been created.
Really?
No.
You should.
This past Sunday,
to be instant.
I'll be 57 years old this year, and I ran, danced, jumped, shouted, and did towels all over that stage this past Sunday. They came up and told me, they said, I ain't never seen a 57-year-old doing what you did this weekend. And I just had an operation on my knee.
You supernatural, baby.
But I got the crud.
I know you do. You kept me up all night. You sure did.
Baby.
You finally got a revelation about 4 a.m. to get up and go.
About halfway through the night, I realized it wasn't going to happen. And I didn't want to put you through that anymore. And so I just said, I'm going to go in another part of the house and just try to lay down. It was miserable.
It was miserable.
Miserable night.
That is miserable, though. Sinus gets me worse than anything.
It's just as soon as you lay down, all the crud starts draining down the back of your neck, and you just start coughing your head off.
Let's don't talk about that.
But it don't happen to me much. I wanted to be babied a little bit.
Oh.
I wanted to be babied because I didn't know what she's going to do to me.
Why'd you jump?
That's letting everybody know how you hit me and stuff. See how I jump?
Hit you.
Don't make me laugh. You see me how I jump like, see that? I did when she just reaches out to me.
I think that was the Holy Ghost.
No.
Because that's what we're talking about
fear.
today. It's not fear. You're crazy. We got some awesome guests today.
Well, we had Ty last week. I didn't have you. So, I have a hard time keeping the ratings up when you're not here because you're much easier to look at. And you're the funny one. You're the life of the party. But I did get somebody who is also the life of the party to take your place. I got Ty. And I'm going to tell you what, we had a great conversation. Ty's my buddy, and we have been friends for a long time. Beyond the artist and now beyond the pastor, he's been a longtime friend of mine. And we had, people I think watch us sometime like, what are Ron and Hope going to talk about next? And we talk about some crazy stuff. But I do want to be serious sometime. And I talked about, is there a generational gap when it comes to really signs, wonders, miracles, the power of God being transferred from one generation to another. There's a lot that the book of Acts, the first century church, has to say about the laying on of hands. Did this happen when when the hands were laid on you? Or did you receive this when hands were laid on you? Or to Paul to Timothy, don't forget to stir up the gift of God that you were given when the hands were laid on you. And I talked to Ty, and I'm going to talk about it today, about the fact that what we saw and the miracles that were commonplace in the churches we grew up in made me who I am.
That's right.
My Bible school didn't make me who I was. It was the myriad of experiences with God that gave me my fear of God, gave me my perspective of God and my perspective of ministry and what a church is supposed to be. And then the wonderful, amazing people that have imparted things into mine in your life that here again have impacted us greatly. Right. But then we come up on one generation, but mainly the millennials who, and for reasons that I know I'm going to talk about, kind of rejected a lot of what was going on and went in another direction. But now I see
they thought we were kooky.
Yeah, I see now a generation that is looking a little deficient and a little depleted and saying, is there anything more? Is it just coffee and T-shirts and signs at the road? Or is there anything else that happens?
Yeah. Well, that don't help you when you got a drug addict.
No,
help you when you got marital problems.
No, you just can't go get another cup of coffee.
No.
And so the fact is, we now have the birth of Gen Z, and we get all these generations. You almost get them confused. But sociologists, not church, sociologists say they are a different breed, and they are going to come hard after God.
Yes. And we see that.
And an unabashed
and we see
style.
It in our church.
And that's what's filling up in our campuses, both campuses right now. And you and I are kind of having to retool to be able to accommodate what God is doing in this generation. So without any further ado, some of the best people I know. We don't get to spend any time with them.
Been friends a long
They're incredibly
time.
busy we are. But I mean, when I say a long time, the first time you were with them, I think, was in Camden, South Carolina, and it was like in the mid-'90s.
Stewart's.
In the mid-'90s.
Years
and
ago.
you came back and told me about this couple called the Binions, and that, you couldn't stop talking.
I mean, we've been friends since Nicole was pregnant with her last one.
Yeah, that was, 60 years ago, was it?
Don't do her like that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pay for that one probably when they come up.
David and Nicole.
But David and Nicole Binion, they are our great guests. I want you to hang in here because nobody's done it better than they've done it, and done it longer than they've done it, and done it consistently.
Yeah.
And we love them so much and glad to have them today. Would you bring them up, guys? Hey, David and Nicole, how are you doing?
Hi.
Hey, friends. How are you?
We're
doing really good.
Good to see you. Y'all look like you're about 29 sitting right there.
David's been in ministry
natural light.
It is that good natural light.
I said, David's been in ministry 60 years and looks 29, and that's amazing.
Y'all are grandparents now?
Yes. We have
are.
one grandson that's 2.5 and another one on the way.
I know that.
Okay.
Isn't the greatest thing in the world?
This will wreck the podcast. I don't want to go here, but do you have the ability to tell this kid no? Because I've not achieved that yet. I've not achieved it. If you have, help me.
I've not even tried. I haven't even thought about saying no.
Why try?
I do things. My kids look at me and say, Dad, you would have never let us get away with that. And I'm like, it is what it is. I'm sorry.
Older and wiser, right? Older and wiser.
Absolutely. He's so fun, and he's such a little extrovert. It's just precious. He's like the best church baby. He loves everybody, and everybody loves him. So super fun.
And then one of yours just got married.
Yes.
On Valentine's Day.
Gracie, our daughter, she got married. Yeah.
You're so close. You're so close. You're so close.
We got
empty nest.
Our last one's getting married in the end of May.
May 30th.
And all three of ours will be married. But we've been empty nesters now for a little over a year and a half, something like that.
When he moved out to get his own place.
I'm going to tell you, when the last one moved out, I had a bad moment that lasted about a moment.
For a minute.
And after that moment was over, I looked at Hope, I'm like, what do you want to do?
He said, hallelujah.
We can go do anything we want to do. We can walk around the house naked. We can go to Waffle House. We didn't got to watch. We can just do whatever we want to do. And we've had a blast ever since.
Right.
So y'all are close.
Well, let's don't take up all our time on the podcast. Let's talk about this transfer conference.
We got this transfer conference coming up, and y'all are a part of that. And
we're so excited about it.
Give me 2 minutes. Here's the center of the conversation that I want to have. I was talking to Travis Green last year on a podcast, and me and Hope, David Nicole, me and Hope, in our formative years in the early 90s, started a church. Nobody knew who we were. Nobody cared. I had a little warehouse. I had 30 people, whatever. But we would take her 1985 Nissan Pulsar with 6 million miles on it, and we'd load up a cooler and put sardines and sandwiches and Kool-Aid in it. And we would drive to all these conferences, and we'd wait outside 4 hours, and we'd sit in the nosebleed section. And I'll try not to get emotional, but we would, if somebody had a great anointing on their life, we would go anywhere and do that's why Hope came to see y'all that time.
Yeah. We
would go anywhere and do anything in the hopes that something would fall on us. Just something. I would sit at tables and take notes. I would chase it for hours. I didn't really have any mentor. I didn't have anybody that really they didn't take to us in any way, really. And so we just had to chase it. And we would do anything to catch the impartation that came from somebody's life. I'm really not a generation. I feel like I'm sandwiched between two. You got the Jakes and the Benny Hinns, and you got the Word of Faith guys, the Copelands and the Jessies and the Marilyn Hickeys and the Joyce Meyers, and the list goes on. And now you got the Furdicks and the Mike Todds, and the list goes on. And I'm kind of somewhere, I'm not that and I'm not that. I'm kind of something in the middle.
We're just going to tell them you're 56.
And, you know, now I'll be 57 this year, and I got this well. I've been pastoring 35 years. I got this well of impartation, information, experience, and I've turned around to give it to somebody, and nobody's standing there. And so I talked to Travis, and I said, I think I know what it is. A lot of that previous power generation didn't end well. A lot of them, the lives came off the rails.
Right.
Things end well, strings of divorces. I love all these guys. I love them. Even in our life, we've had our own bumps that, you know, we would go back and do it again differently if we could. But you just had all those guys. It ended in like a train wreck. And so the millennials looked at that and said, I don't want that. And I understand that. I don't want that. I don't want to lose my family. I don't want my marriage to fall apart. And I think that they coupled.
They played it safe.
Yeah, if you're a power guy, you're going to go down in flames.
So let's play it safe.
So they rejected that wholeheartedly, and we always overcorrect.
Yeah.
So they overcorrected to the other side to where we have what I call ankle deep water, very benign services, and where I go in and I leave and I'm like I was in a church not long ago, and the message was 5 things God would say to Kim Kardashian.
Dear Lord.
And I looked at Hope. I called Hope, and I'm like, is this really where we are? This is really where we are. And I remember services where I couldn't get off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember services where the fear of God was so upon me, I was scared to breathe. I remember services, hours in the presence of God, and everybody from the stage back slain in the Holy Ghost. Healings. My dad telling me about Oral Roberts, and my daddy worked the altar at a thing with Oral Roberts, and cancer fell off a woman's neck at the altar at his feet.
Yeah.
It fell off her neck, a piece of flesh at his feet.
And David, I remember on one of y'all's albums, you said something happened that was like a high watermark in your life, that y'all were lost in the presence, and it was hours when you came to, and the service had been, you felt like minutes, but it was hours. Talk about that.
These conversations don't take place anymore. And I just want to hear, am I the only one that's seeing there's a deficiency here?
But
or
there's a cry, there's a shift.
I just want to say, Nicole and I have crazy busy lives, and even the schedule for today, we got to fly to Seattle tonight for a conference, and we're but we wanted to do this. But it's just, honestly, it's like, we're so busy. We're almost like, we wish we could have picked another day.
Yeah.
But already this conversation has stirred my spirit that this is where we are.
Yes.
This is our heart. So I grew up just like you did and experienced the power movement.
Yeah.
I remember at 13 years of age, I saw my dad raise the dead. I saw the cancers disappear off the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw all of these things in my dad's ministry, and my mom and dad were so frightening. It's like I was afraid. I was never a sinner because I was afraid to sin, because mom or dad would always have this line in with God, and they would read our mail, and it was it's scary.
Right.
And so I grew up in all of that, but even getting past all of that, I got pulled into this life of being a worship pastor at a church. And I remember just kind of going through the motions of doing all the things. And I found myself trying to please my pastor instead of please the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a fine line.
Right.
We should honor those in leadership. But I found myself in this place of living kind of in anxiety, trying to make sure the pastor was happy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there was this time I remembered who I was, and I dove back into the presence place. And about that time, Tommy Tenney had just experienced the pulpit split
Right.
in Houston
Right.
at Richard Hurd's church, and just weeks later came to our church. And that's the encounter that hope that I
Yeah.
talked about on that recording.
Yeah.
Remember, the glory hit that house. Now, seeing all that I ever saw in the power movement, I had never known the presence or the glory. Let's call it the glory.
Yeah,
Glory.
yeah.
The glory hit the place. The terror of God hit the room, and 1,000 people dove for the floor. And I crawled on my hands and knees underneath the piano, afraid to breathe.
Yep. Yep.
Thinking I should pray, but anytime a word in English would come, I would feel so inappropriate. I remember laying there thinking I should get up and play something, and I had no song in my arsenal that was even appropriate
Wow.
for the weight of glory in the room. And then I thought I'd pray in tongues. That seemed like I can't. I had to. First of all, I didn't want to do anything that would cause it to lift. So all I could do was lay there and groan. And I thought it was 20 minutes when I finally got up, and it was 5.5 hours. But I was marked.
Yeah, yeah.
I was marked, and anything less than what I know is now available, it's just a disappointment.
Yeah, yeah.
But I had to learn to not live with an attitude about churches. It's like they're not there because they just haven't been exposed to it.
That's exactly right. I've told, Jesus said a student becomes like his teacher. I don't think it's because a generation would reject these things. In fact, I think it's the most spiritual generation ever. Just look at all the movies about demons. I was on the plane coming here. 50% of all the movies available on the plane was about demons. So I'm like, Satan don't even hide no more. He parades his in the street. We live right outside of San Francisco. Demon-possessed people walking the street, fentanyl, people out of their mind, people crazy. He's everywhere. But letting the power of the Holy Ghost be revealed is taboo now. And
I don't think it is now.
I'm talking about a middle generation. I don't want to
Yes.
call out millennials, but we got this one generation that has had very little of this experience.
Yes.
Nicole, you said something to me before while you guys were talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I feel like the millennial generation is a product of the seeker-sensitive church growth movement that really sanitized and, the church experience, the spirit filled church experience.
You're right.
And so, I'm sure like you guys, we work with a lot of millennials and a lot of Gen Z.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah. And so I feel like that seeker movement, which, again, sanitized. Our kids, I remember they went to kids camp and got the baptism of the Holy Spirit, at kids camp. They're really, and we were, in an amazing church, but there really wasn't space for that. Unless it was a special conference or a special camp or, something like that. And of course, our kids traveled a lot with us and experienced, depths of the presence of God and depths of, signs and wonders.
It usually doesn't come on every Sunday morning service.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like the millennials are really kind of, it's kind of on us in a way, Gen X and the baby boomer generation, that made a shift, I think. And so
I think what happened, a lot of what happened during the seeker-sensitive movement, there was this concept that seasoned people aged out and were no longer
relevant.
They didn't want anybody over 30 on the stage.
Right.
So what they did is they eliminated all the fathers and mothers and became a fatherless generation.
Ooh, wow.
That is a great insight right there. Great insight.
And it's like, I don't know. The thing is, I sat in meetings with pastors, and they would meet with companies,
marketing
companies that would advise how we should do our church. And these leaders in the marketing company never pastored, had no clue, and started making all of these assessments. And the bottom line is, how can we get more people in the building, get in and out? And because I honestly think it had to do with getting more finance.
Well, here's the problem. Now, you can start offering advice, but when the building's full and the money's flowing, and they look and say, well, you got 7,000 in your building, but I had 10,000 last Sunday. It's kind of like because the numbers have now become the measurable. You don't have the numbers I have, so what do you have to say to me?
Right.
But the fact is, the kingdom is not all in measurables.
No, it isn't.
The impact on a person's life, how do you measure that? The what season a person's in, how do you measure that? When somebody gets up from a God encounter at the altar, how is that? You can't measure that in a number. And those are so the kingdom is not like a corporation where there's all measurables. Here's another thing that happened. We have East and West Coast campuses, so we have different parts of our staff that are kind of stronger on one coast than maybe on the other. So when we have a big conference, we'll take some from one and fly them out to the other. Well, we were doing this the end of last year, me and Hope, and we had 3 of our cameramen with us, and I don't get to spend a lot of one-on-one time with our cameramen. And I'm like, I'm going to take advantage of this. We had a layover in Denver. I looked at them. I said, come on, I'm going to take y'all out to dinner. Let's have a good dinner, because by the time we get to California night, all you'll be able to get is a drive-through. They said, all right. So I said, all right, I'm going to shoot my shot while I got these guys. All of them under 30. All of them know the who's who of ministry. They follow them. They know everybody. And after the waiter took our order, I said, all right, I want to ask y'all a question. I said, you're married. I said, your wife just got a terrible report. There's no help for her outside of a miracle. If God don't touch her, you're going to lose her. I said, all right, the pastor's got to be under 45. What church are you taking her to?
That's a great question.
Crickets.
They couldn't answer.
Crickets. I looked at them and I said, that is so sad. I said, because I could have knocked off if you asked me that question, I could have named you 100 churches.
Yeah.
I'd have gone to.
And I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure we know they're out there. There's always a remnant. God's always got his people.
But people with the platform.
We knew,
yeah, people with the platform.
People they knew. They couldn't name it.
And they couldn't say anything. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not a generation basher, because I got bashed by the older guys because I had an unconventional approach. And I always kind of told myself, when I get a little older, I don't want to turn around and bash everybody else. It's not a bashing. It's I want the pastors to allow the congregation to experience, because it's not the congregation, it's their handlers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People are hungry.
I've gone to seeker-sensitive churches. Why they ask me, I don't know. And God will come in there and wreck the place. And so it ain't that they don't want it. I've seen how much they want it. It's that they've never been exposed to it.
I just think it's not the posh thing. It's not the end thing. It's not the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is how the cool people do church. But I do believe, I really do. And as we turn this corner, about the transfer conference, it's really our hope and our intent. I would love to see everything get wrecked. I just want the Holy Spirit to sweep in and his glory to fall in that place for days. I would love it.
Can I just say it's rare to hear a lead pastor make that statement.
Well, we're ready.
We had our planning session for the other day, and all we planned for was space.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's all we planned for. Give God space. That was the whole planning session. I've never done that before. I've never really done a worship conference before. This, there's not a bunch of preachers coming. Yeah. It is seasoned generation and great younger generation and praise and worship leaders and church people. And we're finding, we're out in the Bay Area of California. It's the most unreached zip code in all of America, 97% unreached. The 3% are Catholic that go to church. Evangelicals do not even register as a percentage out there. And I'm going to be honest with you. I got my own confession. We went out there, and there's no church culture. They don't know the songs. It don't exist. It's not on anybody's radar. And so I felt like, I'm a gunslinger. I'm really going to have to dial this back. And the church grew up marginally.
Then COVID hit.
And then we almost had to start over. But I looked at Hope about a year ago.
A little more than that now.
I looked at Hope, I said, man, I'm not happy with myself.
Wow.
I said, this just ain't me. I said, this just ain't me. I said, and God didn't bring me out here to change what I am. He brought me out here because he must have thought that's what they needed.
Yeah.
And I made up my mind about a year and a half ago. I said, I'm going to turn it loose.
Come on.
This building is packing out 2 and 3 times a day.
It's crazy.
And it is wild what has been happening. Same is true on the East Coast.
Yeah.
We just bought our campus again on the East Coast, and we're having to go to multiple services. The services are coming off the rails, and I look out there, and everybody's 30 years old and down.
Yes.
Come on. Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
So, I want to use you guys at Transfer Conference, not just in your worship experience, but I'm actually looking at the laying on of hands, not for healing but
Literal
to
Impartation.
impart
transfer.
something,
Yes.
to impart something, because I believe that there's people walking around with stuff in them that's dormant. They're carrying it, but it's never been activated.
Yeah.
And when the
Wow.
right people lay hands on you,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
happens.
Nobody cares about, we don't need a session about, songwriting, and we don't need a session about how to create a set list.
No, we're
And,
pursuing.
we need pursuit.
That we're pursuing in this thing. And, I've had, David Nicole, I've had Benny Hinn and Reinhard Bonnke at the same time lay hands on me.
Wow.
Right before Roberts died, I flew all the way across the nation to go to his little apartment. He laid hands on me. No matter how it ended, one day he's very powerful. Bishop Eddie Long and Bishop Jakes lay hands on me in the ministry. I had the denomination at which I was birthed into. I had their elders and my father lay hands on me. I had
Miles
Monroe asked me to lay down and took his coat off and threw it on me and prophesied that my revelation of the kingdom will be 1,000 times greater than his. And I wouldn't take anything for those experiences. Marilyn Hickey and a whole host of others with Hope. Same thing has happened to us that made us who we are. I'm ready to get my hands on somebody.
Yes.
I'm ready to give this stuff away. What about you guys? Do y'all feel that?
Oh, it's like, I think the mindset where Moses' father-in-law told him, hey, you got to get some people, and I'm going to put what's on you on them. Call 70 people, and I'm going to put it on them. Moses didn't lose anything when that was released to the 70. He didn't lose the level of anointing. If not, on the other hand, it probably increased.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the nature of the kingdom. When you give,
Increase.
Yes.
increase. Impartation. We've been through this in the last several years. I don't even know how it started, but there are a generation of worshipers, not just worship leaders, but worshipers that started calling me Papa David.
There we go.
And at first I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I like to be called Papa, but I
Except by Nicole.
I love it. And they want to hear what I have to say. And there's this group of 30 years old and younger that it's the complete opposite of what happened with the millennials. It's like, I want a father.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
need a father. Even the worship movement today, all the current worship leaders that sometimes I haven't seen them in years, but we'll run into each other and they'll just run and hug me and call me Papa.
Yeah.
So organically, it's already happening.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's already happening.
Yeah.
I've had a little bit of it. I went to a phenomenal church in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi. When I came up on the church, I couldn't believe it. Because I thought, where are these people taking me? I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to get shot, something. And then we come up on this amazing facility, held about 2,500 people. Place was jam-packed, and it was a full-fledged seeker church. And when I looked at the church and I looked at him having me, I'm like, you do know. And he's like, I got you here because I want you. He said, do what you do.
Wow.
And so we went in that night. We had a great service. Well, here's the thing that I loved. It's only happened one time, but it's the first experience I've had with what you're talking about. After the service was over with, they took me back in a room, and all I can explain is, you remember the old pictures in Grandmama's house, like the Last Supper, had the table that was stretched on? They had this long table, and it had like 22, 24 people sitting at it, all young pastors. They set me down at the end table with a plate of food, and all of them sat around with laptops and iPads, and they said, "Teach me the kingdom."
Wow.
And I sat there for 2 hours. Ooh. And I much more enjoyed that than I did preaching to the 2,500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
happening.
I'm so eager to give away things to a generation that I know if they ever really experienced it one time, they could never go back. Yeah. You can't go back.
I just want y'all to come expecting. I want you to it's not just, we're not just there to use your gift. And because you can worship, you're worshipers. And I've always said Nicole's the greatest singer in the world, but that's not why we're bringing you. We are because a lot of people can sing, a lot of people
bringing you in because you're Papa.
You carry the presence of God, and that is what we're after. I
feel like that is the invitation heaven is releasing to the body, is for fathers to stand up and be fathers and speak. And there are times that I've had to challenge popular worship leaders that their lifestyles were questionable. And I was like, you know what? I risk our friendship, but I'm going to tell you this, because what you're doing is evidence that you don't have a father in your life. So if you're going to call me Papa, let me speak truth to you.
So good.
And you can't just, who will ascend the hill of the Lord? He who has clean hands and a pure heart. And so,
and real fathers and mothers, while we celebrate the gifting that is on someone, man, I'm not going to elevate a gifting without speaking truth to say, this is how we live holy. Yeah. This is how we live pure. Right. And I think that's why so many people who are gifted have been messed up, because they've been elevated by leaders just because of their gift, and their character and their walk with the Lord, has not been challenged. And I do believe this generation, they're hungry for it. They want
the real. They want the real.
Yeah, I challenged all of our worship leaders. Ever since me and Hope went through our stuff and God restored everything, we've become that couple. If I started listing all the names of the calls we've gotten in the middle of the night, because we know what you went through and we need help. And we've had a wonderful opportunity to speak into some very powerful people at real crisis points, and nobody ever knew anything.
Yeah.
But I've told a lot of the praise and worship leaders who's called on us, here's where their lifestyle always comes off the rails: when they're no longer connected to a local body and they're no longer connected to a man or woman of God.
That's right. Yep.
That doesn't end up anywhere good.
No,
so I
never.
said, God can take you anywhere, but stay attached to a local body, and stay attached to someone who can mentor and speak into your life, who's not your friend and who's not impressed with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Not impressed with you, but will sit there and anchor you to your character. I tell our worship leaders, I can't tell you anything about praise and worship skills, but I can anchor you to your character. And so I will always provide that purpose in your life. We got to get out of here. Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm just so excited. I know y'all got to catch a plane, but soon you'll be catching a plane to see us.
I am so excited to be I just want to see you guys.
I know.
In person.
It's been a while.
I know. Do you remember the last time, Papa David, you were at our church and you put a Kotex pad on your face?
Yeah. It was in the green room. It was in the green room. And I went into the restroom and there were supplies.
He is crazy.
I forgot about
that.
I forgot about that.
So much.
Listen, we're honored. We're so honored to be coming and just expectant. And
yes, us too.
Yeah.
too.
Blessings on you, travel mercies on you. Thank you
Yep.
for taking a little bit out of your day and doing this. I wanted people to see your faces. I want them to hear your voice, and I want to let them know where we're going. I don't know, if this is going to be one of those conferences where people are going to pack it out or not, but I will tell you this. We're coming in and we're going for it.
Yes.
We're just going for it. So be ready when you get there. Make sure you got plenty of energy drinks, all right?
Yes.
All right. We love you guys.
We love
Love you
y'all.
guys
y'all.
too. So
Blessings.
excited.
See you soon.
We'll talk to you real
Okay.
soon.
Okay,
Well,
bye-bye.
That's awesome. We love the Binions, and it's going to be an amazing conference.
Transfer is XLP will be later on the East
Yeah.
Coast in Greenville, but transfers on the West Coast May 7th through 9th.
7th through the 9th.
May 7th
Wednesday,
through the 9th.
Thursday, Friday.
If you're a worshiper, if you're a pastor and want to bring a worship team, if you're a worship leader,
Or you just want to get in the presence
you just
of
want to
God
get in the
for 3
presence of
days.
God and say, I'm empty, and that sounds like something I need. I need you to register. Go online, myredemption.cc, and register. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. But we got to make sure if you do fly across the country or midway across the
We got
country,
a seat
we
for
have
you.
a seat for you. And so we just want to make sure we can accommodate everybody, and we have them register so we know when to cut the registration off. But it's been amazing to be with these guys. I'm looking forward to transfer, and I'm glad to have you back because I sure have missed you.
I missed you.
She's been doing her Come Higher conference last week. And when she does that, I have to be a bachelor and cook all my own meals and wash
But
my
you
own
did
clothes.
it, and I'm proud of you.
And so anyway,
But
I'm learning
until
how to do
next
it.
time, it is Ron and Hope, Unfiltered, Real, Raw, Relevant, and we will see you at Transfer.
Bless you guys.